Hola todos, how we doing here? Welcome to the second to last set of readings. I'm sure you guys are a little bit excited that you can actually think about going through a week without having to read a ton of articles. But heck, remember, you didn't have to buy a book this semester. Oh, we had to do our book reflection paper. My bad. Still cheaper than going to the bookstore. Okay, interesting set of articles today, but more important, a much more interesting set of questions. So I hope that we caught up on this first article. The first paragraph really is my mindset. The famous quote from John Wanamaker is, "I know I'm wasting half my money, I just don't know which half. I don't know I'm wasting half my advertising dollars. I just don't know which half." Well, guess what? When we start thinking about our marketing expenditures this way, it's never going to be 100% that we're going to be able to absolutely positively know and attribute advertising expenditures to revenue, but this is closer than anything we've ever had in the history of marketing. So I'm a big fan. The other thing you should notice on page 63, the Get Out of Your Swim Lane page, there's a casual reference to UCLA marketing professor, market share co-founder, Dominic Hassens. This is not the first article that we've read from him this semester. Earlier in the semester, go back and look at your reading list. And he's the co-founder. The founder is the author of the article. For all intents and purposes, this is really a co-written article by the two of them. But that's a little inside baseball for you. All right. Let's answer some questions. The time and effort to execute these Analytics 2.0 initiatives are clearly worthwhile. But is this something that small business could realistically accomplish as well? Without question, yes. As a matter of fact, I would claim that it's easier for smaller businesses than it is for bigger businesses. Because smaller businesses have smaller advertising expenditures. They do them in less swim lanes or channels, as you could say. And chances are smaller businesses would spend them in less trackable things. For instance, if I was a smaller business, I would only do social or digital. Because traditional advertising and ads and magazines and TV is too expensive for a small business. I think it's easier, to be honest with you. The article mentions that businesses must account for hundreds of variables related to market conditions, marketing actions, and competitive activities. How does a company properly weight the importance of each factor during the optimization phase? Well, this may sound complicated. This may think like, oh my God. And this is page 65. Okay. And what happens is we've seen what this UCLA professor has done in previous articles. This is an algorithm, right? And all these other variables are just weights in the algorithms. And they put estimates in. They don't know the actual variables related to marketing conditions and marketing actions and competitive actions. But they put in weights and they test models. And based on model testing, they go forward with a model. So it's pretty much in the realm of economics. When we studied economics, you say, given these assumptions, we're going to go forward. And that's exactly what they do in the model for some of these weights. They make assumptions and they go forward. They don't have the actual numbers. It's not as hard conceptually as it seems it would be. But at the same time, it's not as accurate either because they're estimates. Is Analytics 2.0 a system, program, an organization purchases, or is it a tool that you develop at your own discretion using data mining analytics? I think Analytics 2.0 is a philosophy. It's not a software program. There's no question. It's not a software program. As a matter of fact, this consultant and the professor at UCLA wants you to hire them so they can do this philosophy, the algorithm, so to speak. You know. In your opinion, how effective are TV ads? I'm not a huge fan of TV ads. I just had an undergrad come into my office the other day, and she was asking this particular question vis-a-vis social, okay? And I understand the value of TV ads. I understand how powerful they can be. But at the same time, I also understand that very few players should really be playing in this sandbox. These are companies with $1, $2, $3 billion ad budgets. This is the Budweisers, McDonald's, the Apples, the car companies. You know, they are the firms that have the money for the TV ads. And, you know, for Budweiser to spend $65 million in one night at the Super Bowl, that's that's 3%, 5% of their ad budget for the year. You know, I don't have a problem with that. You know, okay. You know, I don't have a problem with that. I prefer, though, the first paragraph of this article. I love my ROI, and the more that I can spend and know what I'm getting for my expenditures, the happier I am. You know, TV ads. How can TV ads become more effective? Or do you think they will eventually be replaced by apps, search ads, and other applications like YouTube? Well, I've been claiming the doom of network TV for the better part of 10 years when I started this class. And although I see, you can go to my blog and you can see articles that I've posted where companies have now gone back that meridian point, gone beyond the meridian point where they're spending more than half of their ad budget on non-TV related vehicles, particularly digital. Nike has, you know, and Nike used to be a traditional big-time TV company, and they're now somewhere between 55 and 60% of all their ad spending is in non-TV. So, you know, I don't see TV disappearing anytime in the next 10 or 15 years unless something major happens, i.e., you know, the fall of network TV, the fall of cable because of the Apple TV and the HBOs becoming unplugged and the ESPNs becoming unplugged. That would be a major downfall to traditional TV advertising spending. But then again, you know, every one of the major TV networks survives on sports. And as long as they have sports, they're going to be fine. And I don't see live sports coming to Apple TV anytime soon. So, why are social media and Twitter listed as separate market activities in the get out of your swim lanes graph? Well, the correct answer is I don't know exactly how the professors and the consultant came up with these buckets, but I can give you a plausible explanation. Social media could be earned media, like we talked about earlier in the semester. Someone talking about your brand, product, or service on YouTube on a blog, that would be considered social media. You know, Twitter might be easier to isolate, and they have Twitter as its own category. So that's kind of how one plausible explanation of how you could say these are separate activities. But, you know, Facebook data is better than Twitter data, and if Facebook's not broken out, but Twitter is, that's a little weird, but we'll see. The article does not seem to account for quality of advertising, just the channel. Is the channel the most important factor? No, quality is the most important factor. Obviously, quality in the right channel would be the most optimal scenario. But these guys, remember, these are algorithm guys, so they're just using each channel as a variable in the equation. Maybe they have some covariate for quality. Maybe, but probably not. They're more trying to isolate, the channel. That's the more important thing. They're not trying to isolate the quality of the ad. Okay? Alrighty. Next article. I hope you like this one. I mean, this was an article that came out, and it was a big hit because we all know that the rise of mobile is not stopping. It's just not stopping. It's exponential growth, both in developing markets and developed markets. So the natural inclination would say, okay, if all these devices are out there, let's start throwing ads in their direction. And the fact of the matter is that the ad platforms or the ad mentality on mobile devices is just not there. Small little banner ads on a screen that size, when they really don't work. They really don't work. So what this professor is indicating is, why have banner ads when Pandora should just have an app? They should have the digital catalog as one big ad as an app. Why not? Why not? You might get better engagement and attention and time on the app by having an app as opposed to having a banner ad. So that's the big picture. Now let me answer some questions. Although consumers may or may not feel advertising via mobile apps is less intrusive, is it still effective? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the amount of time that the Nike people spend in the Nike app, which also, serves a function. It tracks your running or it connects you to a trainer. But it also has product listings that, there's a new sneaker out, or there's a new pop-up on my Nike app that talks about the new running sneaker that's going to be out in stores next week. Way more effective. I mean, Under Armour is probably the only other company that can give a Nike a run for its money. Every other sports company out there is growing in the wrong direction, mostly smaller. Adidas is struggling. Reebok is struggling. What are the other major? Puma is struggling. Only Nike and only Under Armour are companies that are growing. And what did Under Armour do in the last year? They bought not one, but two of the dominant apps in the sport coaching field. So all of a sudden, you're going to be going to the Under Armour app to connect with your sport coach for training. But it's the Under Armour app. And the more you like your training and you like your exercise and you like that and you're doing it through your Under Armour app, the brand Under Armour is going to rub off on you. It's a brilliant idea. For example, Pandora is set to certain geographical area. It is able to advertise based on the type of music stations people are listening to on. Therefore, I feel this type of marketing is somewhere in between bottom up and top down. Well, it's kind of both. They're using the data in a bottom up way to then send a top down message. So yeah, it is somewhere in between. I'll stay with that. Which of the 5 strategies do you feel has the greatest potential to produce long-term value for customers? Okay. This is easy. This is very easy. 1 is add convenience. 2 is unique value. 3 is social value. 4 is incentives. And 5 is entertain. I don't know how, and this is a Harvard Business Review professor, that he has number 2 as a separate one. Offer unique value. I've told you before, you have to tell people what's in it for them. If there's something in it for them, they're interested. If there's nothing in it for them, they don't care. Right? Number 2 isn't one of the 5. Number 2 is what all of them should be. You have to provide value. You have to tell people what's in it for them. That is the most important one if you want to look at them out of one of the 5. It's the number one thing. It's sort of like number one, and the other ones are like A, B, C, and D. The article uses the statistics. Mobile ad budgets in the U.S. are expected to increase from $2.3 billion to almost $11 billion. Do you think this marketing is still on target with these numbers? Well, I read this, and this is what I want you guys to start doing in the future. Go to Google. I don't have to guess. So here's an article that was published in March 2014, and it's showing 2012 spending already at $8.7 billion. 2013 actual spending was at $18 billion. 2014 spending, this is a forecast, $31.45 billion. All right, we're in forecast range in 2014, 2015, but 2012 and 2013 are actual numbers. Okay? So they said 2.3 billion by 2012, 11 billion by 16. Okay? Okay? We're already at 31, which is half the number that they were talking about. For 16, they're forecasting 61. So let's just say these numbers are off. The author does not believe smartphone ads and smartphones work, which is the opposite of the third article, making mobile ads that work. Well, one of the reasons why I like doing article after article that contradict each other is so you get both sides of the argument. I tend to agree that ads are an annoyance, and by the time you click on the ad, it redirects you to a different page, and the user already has lost interest. What's your take on it? Well, it's pretty easy to see that even making mobile ads work, these are very, very small percentages. 4.5, 6.7. These are all single-digit percentages and low single-digit percentages. So, making ads work, they surveyed 40,000 U.S. customers, and they're looking at numbers that are in the 4% range, the 6% range, and the 7% range. I don't know if I would necessarily define that as working. I don't know if I would or not. I mean, we're starting to get closer and closer to telemarketing numbers here. I mean, telemarketing numbers are 1%, 2%, you know. Does that mean they're working? I don't know about that. For consumable products that have apps, such as Red Bull, do you think that the number of gaming apps that are successfully engaging people to play Red Bull games will actually increase their sales in the Red Bull drink? Yes, it will. If you're doing something you really like in the app, the Red Bull app, I mean, you could be a soccer fan, and you could be from North Jersey, and the Red Bull, your soccer team happens to be named the Red Bulls. Well, guess what? You now have a more favorable opinion of that drink. And even if you don't drink it, if you hear someone else talking negative about it, you may come to the defense of the brand because you feel good about that brand because it's your soccer team, or it's the app that you like to play, or it's the extreme games you like to watch. There is definitely a transfer effect. There's decades of data on this, that you like something and you will transfer that liking. You like a particular celebrity, this celebrity will endorse a particular product, you will instantly have a more favorable opinion of that product, which is half the battle. How do you foresee more individually owned restaurants coming out with their own apps for customers to make reservations and write reviews, even though other apps like OpenTable and Yelp already provide these services? Well, I think it's a hell of a lot easier for me to go to the Payway app and order dinner than it is to go through Yelp and OpenTable to then make an order to get somewhere. You know, the app is more direct. If I'm just making reservations, then OpenTable. If I'm just looking up reviews, then Yelp. If I want to make actual transactions, it's probably better to have the app. I mean, do a Google search, but the Domino's app and the Papa John's app is a very large percentage of their orders. We have an entire generation of kids that are growing up that have devices that can make phone calls, and they don't make any phone calls. It's all text. Well, guess what? These people don't want to call to order a pizza, but they'll do it in an app. When companies like Coke and Red Bull offer incentives and games that aren't related to their product, is it really helping them earn new customers? Yes, without question, yes. Is it doing that through building the brand? Yes. And more important, as I said earlier, it's building by, creating a higher favorability rating. Even if you're not a Coke drinker, you probably don't have an anti-Coke mentality. Why? Because they do so much branding and it's feel-good kind of stuff and, a lot of holiday. Even if you're not a beer drinker, you probably aren't overly negative on Budweiser because they do the puppy ads. That kind of thing. All right. Like I said, I love to do articles like this and follow them up with articles like this that try to give you the opposite kind of perspective. And this one just came out. This was December 2013. I've been using this article in the class for at least 2, if not 3 cycles now. And this is the first time I got this one. And plus it's only a 1-pager, and you guys love that, right? Since it is unclear how effective mobile ads are, do you have any ideas on how companies may be able to measure these statistics in the future? Well, the statistics are very measurable now. We don't have to worry about measuring the statistics in the future. We know exactly how many ad impressions were put up and exactly how many clicked and exactly how many created a purchase. It's pretty easy to measure these statistics in the present, and companies are doing that, which is one of the reasons why we know that they're not that effective. For companies that offer products and services that fall in the hedonic and low involvement segment, should they even bother with mobile apps? If not, or mobile ads? If not, then what strategy should marketers undertake to reach the mobile consumer? Well, let's talk about this question and this question at the same time. So, at some point in your marketing class, you learned that there are wants and there are needs. Wants are hedonic. These are, it's utilitarian are needs. I need something to drink. That's a utilitarian motivation. I need to wash my clothes. Buying a washing machine is a utilitarian purchase. Now, I need transportation. I may buy a Toyota Prius, not a Porsche 911. The 911 is hedonic, where the Prius is utilitarian. Now, both hedonic products and utilitarian products could be low involvement or high involvement. High involvement is a lot of processing, a lot of thinking, the pros and cons. Should I get this? Hedonic products that are low involvement are things you don't even think about. You're in Disney World and your son wants a sword that lights up and it's $11 and you're like, well, whatever, blah, blah. They're going to make the kid happy so he doesn't complain over the next 5 hours, then I'm good. Low involvement, hedonic. I'm very much in the spirit of apps, not ads with this. I really don't know. I'm so not into mobile ads, particularly banner ads. Probably what would be better if you can sponsor an app for a day or a week or a month and then you're like a banner, you're like part of the app for the month, not an ad. You're like part of the native content. I'd rather do that. I'd rather do that. How can marketers track at what stage the consumer is in during the purchase decision? They really can't. It's really challenging. This is inside baseball here, where, you know, this is more us marketing people trying to say, well, at this stage or at this stage or at this stage, without you being able to ask the consumer directly. You really don't know what stage they're in. You don't. I already explained this, so that's good. As per the article, mobile ads are only for a specific product group, utilitarian and high involvement. So they work better for if you have a need for a washing machine and you have to do some digging to figure out what kind of washing machine you need. Well, then the purpose of it being a need and being something that you have to investigate, that's tend to be why the mobile ads work, because you're in more of a search mode versus a non-search mode with low involvement or hedonic. Considering the amount of time an average user spends on phones using apps, shouldn't there be some research on how other products and other industries leverage ad space on mobile? Well, they're getting there. We're starting to see people investigate. We have the data. We have consistency. I mean, one of the issues is the mobile ad industry is only about 2, 3, 4 years old. And even the mobile ads that they were doing 3, 4, 5 years ago are not consistent with the ad platforms that they're using today, which means data in the past can't be used to compare the data in the present. So there's a lot of experimenting going on out there. And there are people like these professors that are starting to explore some questions. I don't think this was a terribly interesting question, but the fact that people are using the mass amount of data streams out there, that's a step in the right direction. But without question, you have mobile, and people are thinking about it this way. We're getting there. Personally, I think mobile ads need to evolve. Agreed. All ads that I get is very generic. Agreed. For example, if I search for a new car on my laptop, I would start getting all kinds of Honda Accord ads in other websites that you would go to because the ads and the cookies follow you. However, it's not the same on mobile because mobile is more of a walled garden through apps. There's very little cross-platform sharing of data, and as a matter of fact, there's actually been some lawsuits and there's been some challenges when companies have used data from another app to optimize on their own app. They're walled gardens, these apps. Hence, I think mobile still needs to evolve. I still think mobile needs to evolve, but it's not going to evolve the way this thing works. These are different platforms. The data that comes from mobile is not going to be the same as the data that comes from a browser. It's not the same thing. Okay. This is a brand new article. Never used it in the class before. Analytics 3.0. I think the authors probably overdid this 3.0 thing. They tried to sell it in the article. We've read other articles from Professor Davenport this semester. He is a big data analytics kind of individual. I think the easiest way to think about this is maybe 1.0. They knew that analytics existed. And they used the analytics. In 1.0, they knew data existed, and they started connecting the data to make some decisions. In Analytics 2.0, they actually started using the data to optimize. And what do they call this here? In the 2.0 article. The attribution and the optimization would be more 1.0, 2.0. Analytics allocation is very 2.0. Analytics 3.0 is probably having a data stream not only to optimize on selling a product, but after the product is sold, to have a data stream either for consulting, like in the previous articles we talked about GE and GE aircraft engines, or Nest, which we had an article about Nest, that the data provided in the product after sale improves not only the existing product's use, but that after sale data also comes back to the company to help improve future optimization. In my opinion, even though there's not one phrase of Internet of Things here, or Michael Porter called them smart connected products, I think those articles and this article are a very, very good fit together. Okay? Let me answer some questions. How important is embedding analytics into the actual physical products a company makes? For companies like GE, it's an additional revenue stream from the consulting services from the data that comes back in the aircraft engines. It's a very, very big deal. Developing products that record and transmit in real time, which means companies can not only learn about consumers, they can learn about action. Yeah, it's a very, very big deal. You know, how would you not want your product? I mean, Apple, this is an Apple computer, they get an occasional data stream from their devices back to the company on how things are doing. GE gets a continual data stream from their products back to the company on how things are going. It's much more valuable. We discussed adapting advertising to rapid growth of technology in previous articles. How do you think Analytics 3.0 will change the methods in which we use as a marketer to reach out to consumers? Well, marketers in the past, when they were selling companies on a new product, they would guess the use cases. They would guess how valuable the product would be for this particular company. But let's pretend, you are the salesperson for GE, right? And you are pitching another aircraft company to use your engines. You can show them the data streams and how these companies can optimize to save fuel given conditions. I mean, it's much more of a partnership. It's much more of a telling people what's in it for them on a whole nother level. You know, it's not just pushing information out and talking to 100 people and hopefully 2 people will buy. You're actually partnering with a company. You will exchange data on an ongoing basis. So, can you explain what a digital smoke signal means? It's exactly what we've just been talking about. So the GE aircraft engines send a digital data stream back to the company. This is a metaphor, a smoke signal. And companies and firms can use this digital data stream to improve product or service. What were the tools used in the 50s that produced and captured information to discern patterns? There weren't any. See, if you think about Analytics 1.0, we were able to collect the data and store the data. In the 50s, they weren't able to collect the data. They didn't have any point-of-sale terminals. They weren't able to store the data. They were using punch cards. And then in the 60s, we got some magnetic tape things going. But, and then there was only so much data you can record. It wasn't recorded in real time or even weekly. They did batch processing. I'm so locked into 2.0 and 3.0 now that it's hard for me to get my head around how did people survive in the past. It was the stack it high and let it fly error. With the process of combining multiple types of data in Analytics 3.0 and using these algorithms, monitoring, do you think this will increase or decrease employee morale? Well, it depends. I mean, in my head, it increases morale because there's less guessing. That's the whole idea. We're using data, so we're not guessing. We're making decisions based on data. That's the whole thing here. So hopefully that will increase morale because people are making better decisions. Do you think that employees will find their work easier or lose their independent judgment capabilities? No. The people still need to make the judgment of the data. They still have to interpret the data. They still have to create the algorithms. And this is higher level thinking. The lower level thinking that employees used to do, it's easy for an algorithm to replace that, but not the higher level thinking. Do you think that these processes will increase quality control? I sure hope so. And the human element, I don't think is decreased because the human element is now used on a significantly higher level, and if there's a mistake on the higher level, it's going to be a bigger mistake. It seems like this article supports a top-down method of implementing 3.0. Do you agree with this? Would it be better for companies to implement a bottom-up approach? I don't think it's or. I don't think this is top-down versus bottom-up. I think it's both because we are using a bottom-up data. We're using bottom-up to come up with something and a process then that is organized through a top-down decision. We don't make the decision, collect data to see if it was right or not. We collect data, bottom-up, to come up with knowledge, and then we test the knowledge to see how accurate it is. And let's say it's 65% accurate. Well, then based on the error of 35%, we tweak, get more data. And then next time we do it, we're up from 35% error. Now we're down to 22% error. And then we get more data. And then we go to 12% error. And we get more data. I mean, this is what Amazon does with their ratings and reviews. When they started their algorithm, when Google started their algorithm, it was good, but it wasn't nearly as good as it is today. That's a bottom-up, top-down. That's both. It's not either or, it's both. What kinds of jobs, roles would benefit from training or at least general understanding of platforms like Hadoop or NSQL? Well, we know the only people that can do this level of database are the IT people. And this function cannot be locked in the IT department. At the very least, an IT person needs to be in the marketing department, an IT person needs to be in the finance department. We're going to get to some more questions about this in a second or two. So I'm not going to say everything I need to say about this here. But let's just say I'm going to come back to a market orientation argument very soon here. What are the biggest downsides to Analytics 3.0? Can it backfire or have detrimental effects? Well, this was absolutely the perfect question to ask before going into the next question. The downside to an Analytics 3.0 world is some people think that data is truth. The data is accurate. They think, metaphorically speaking, that just because data, that we're in some kind of a Harry Potter world and we go in the Ministry of Magic and we go into the Department of Mysteries and there's crystal balls lined up all over the place and all we have to do is go find the correct crystal ball, look into the future, and it tells us what the future is going to be. Every one of us that's watching this video has had 9111, 9112, and you've learned regression. Regression is using past data to forecast the future. Okay? Is regression better than guessing? Yes. Is regression 100% accurate? No. Is there any forecasting method that can predict the future with extremely high accuracy? No. Analytics 3.0 has that same kind of thing. We're using past data to predict the future. Can it backfire? Yeah, it could backfire. It could. But what we keep doing is we keep testing. We keep tweaking. We keep playing with it. And we keep seeing how accurate past information is working towards the future. And maybe for like an 18-month period, it's actually very accurate. But then there's a shift in the marketplace, and all of a sudden we went from having a 12% error to now we're up to a 42% error. Well, what happened there? We need to go back and tweak the formula. This is that bottom-up, top-down thing. It's not a one-time, okay, we found it for the rest of our lives. This is going to be the prediction to the future. No. And I think that's what this author is trying to get at. Data is good. I love data. I am a big fan of data. I have an ROI mentality. But it is not 100% truth. We still need management to interpret the data, to make decisions, to tweak the algorithm. It's a partnership between the management and the data and the algorithms. It's not big data, and it's so easy for us to go out there and think that the solution exists out there. Let's just go and find that needle in the haystack. No, that's not the metaphor you need when you're leaving my class here. No. That's what he's trying to get at with data, data's credibility problem. And once more, I love when we get a 3.0 article, and then the next article that follows it argues not against it explicitly, but it gives you some of the downsides to data. You need to see both sides of all these arguments. You need to see pros and cons. Is there a risk in data quality by shifting data responsibility away from IT and towards various department line managers? It depends. If the department line manager is trained like an IT person, then no. If the IT person is the department line manager, then no. Is there a market-oriented, cross-functional communication and training and culture at the firm? Then no. No. How much of a role does the strong internal and cross-functional communication have on the quality of data within a company? It is one of the most important things. If the firm's not market-oriented and the firm does not have cross-functional communication and training and knowledge and culture, just because data is coming from IT or operations, then guess what? It's only so good if marketing or finance or management won't implement any of it. And, that's how errors do happen in the lost in translation. But if we have strong internal and cross-cultural, cross-functional, and everybody's speaking the same language, then we don't have any translation issues. The article acknowledges that people creating data often don't have a firm understanding of how others in the organization use that information. True. How can companies avoid the silo effect for data? Well, it's the non-market-oriented firms that have silos. The companies that don't have the silos, that the departments are cross-functional, they have less of this challenge. And usually what happens is those companies that have those firm walls, they want the CRM to work. They think it's software. And the CRM initiative is completely coming out of IT. But marketing and finance don't buy into it because they have no buy-in to it. This is all something coming from the IT. Well, if there was more of a strategic direction from the CEO and the COO, and everybody speaking the same language, and there's less of these barriers between departments, and everybody understands why we need the CRM philosophy, then it would be easier for the ID department to talk to the marketing department and talk to the finance department for a particular initiative that would use IT, We're here in the second to the last week, and we still keep going back to the first week at market orientation article. I always thought that the problem with big data is too much data. Well, that's one of the problems, but that's not the biggest problem. And we use data analytics to segregate bad data and make sense of good data. Shouldn't that data analytics help in resolving data credibility problem? No, because the data credibility problem has more with people than it does with data. The data credibility problem has more with non-market orientation and more with non-cross-functional communication than it has with good data and bad data. We have software, we have databases, we can come up with algorithms to sort data. We don't have data problems anymore. We can store terabytes and zettabytes of data. That's not a problem. We can sort through all this stuff in minutes. That's not a problem anymore. The problem is all people. People are the problem. In the Chevron example, do you know if Chevron and other companies offer incentives for accuracy? To be direct, I have no idea. I know that Chevron and all other companies offer incentives for results, and better results means better accuracy, and better results, better accuracy means better data. So maybe indirectly is the best way for me to answer this question. But once again, Chevron and all these other companies do not have a crystal ball, and they're using the past and they're using data to predict future. It's not an easy thing to do. Given the following statement is most likely true, it is the business units and managers who must face angry customers who make good promises on goods or explain poor results to shareholders. I think that the IT department will probably incur the same types of issues with their internal customers and business units. Do you agree? Well, I agree if the IT department is a silo and these people are silos and they're all looking at each other and pointing fingers, as opposed to maybe if the ID department and all these people were on the same page and were part of the same unit, we wouldn't have this miscommunication. There would be less cross-functional challenges. Back to market orientation. Alrighty. I have no idea who asked this question, but whoever it was, you're brilliant. Because do you foresee a new management role around data emerge across industries or departments? Chief Data Officer. Well, if you look at the articles for next week, I think you'll find the answer to this question. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. There was a reason why I used this question as the last one I was going to answer this week. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, okay? Thanks.